DPW with Hytham, I think is doing a good job, and certainly we're going to talk to him about, the majority of your issues. I think, but the one thing I've said is I want to look at every department, and I want to look at it from top to bottom. I want to look at how we spend money. I want to look at how we can actually save money. Is there duplication? Is there waste? Are there ways that we can then take those priority resources and shift them somewhere else? And that's what we're doing with each and every department. The last thing is, I may mention too, we're going to bring on what we call county stat, which will be a cost-saving measure for us to look at, and a reporting mechanism, so that if Councilmember Lehman wants to know, how many buses, are up in the northern part or connecting and how late it arrives, we could be able to tell her that, or tell her staff that. If she wants to know whether, in fact, truancy rates have increased in the middle school in her area, working with the school department, we can actually have that information. But more importantly, that will also tell us about whether there's a connection with criminal activity, or whether there's a connection with anything, so that we're actually able to track this information. Code enforcement, so that information in terms of code violations are reported back, not just to DER, but also to the police, to transportation, to municipalities, so that we can look at these measures. And so, the idea is to make our government work more efficiently, clearly leaner. I didn't mention libraries, but I am for them. I'm for them staying open. I just would like to pay me. In fact, mine closes. It's right over here in Hyattsville. So, we're looking for money, but there are some really worthwhile projects that we're trying to fund, but we have to find money for it. And I will close and take questions after this. I made a determination that if I'm going to go to the state and badger them about money, which I am doing, that I feel, as somebody who served on appropriation in Annapolis, I feel is necessary for us to figure out ways to raise revenue. It's easy to ask for money. It's harder to say, here's what we're willing to advocate for and to ask you to put in. And so on two bills that are in Annapolis, actually three. The first is the alcohol tax, raising it up to 10 cents a drink. I am in favor of what I've said to the Speaker and to the President of the Senate. President of the Senate wasn't too happy with the idea, but I've said, that is those are resources. Yes, we should use some for healthcare issues. The others should go toward education. Unfortunately, we can't have it all designated. We've got to be able to have greater flexibility. And right now, we're going to lose about $22 million in education funding in Annapolis. We're losing money. Montgomery County's gaining money, because who knew that we were richer than Montgomery County? So clearly we need to find revenue. So that's one. The other is the gas tax, which I will testify on next week, that we look to raise it. I'm not sure exactly how much we're going to raise it for it, but I think, whether you put it in what they call the lockbox, so that it goes back into transportation, a trust fund, which I think helps us, quite honestly. Our projects, every development project we have, and every project we have around the county needs this money. What I've said to the Speaker, and then what I've said to the President of the Senate, I'm willing to go down there, testify in favor of it, willing to ask our delegation to support it. But if we're bringing, 23 votes in the House and 8 votes in the Senate, then I think, if we put our neck on the line, then we should be looked favorably when you start divvying up the money. And if we're going to bring a solid base of votes, then we should be in the in the driver's seat when it comes to the funding. The speaker has agreed, and so with that caveat that this is about bringing money back to what I think for the state, and I made this case to the governor, and I made it to the Senate. Maryland's growth is going to be here. We've seen it. We've held steady in growing. We've grown in Prince George's County, but we've grown in Montgomery County and Charles County, but the Washington region. So for commercial growth, the place is Prince George's County. This is it. Nobody really wants to go way out in terms of business. They're coming back toward Washington, D.C. So I think the state ought to be advocating for growth to take place here. As the federal government expands and needs more space, we should be the primary place that they look to put and lease space. And so I think that, the folks in Annapolis, we ought to be the new Baltimore. The center of the population is in this area, and we shouldn't be ashamed to say, here's where you ought to invest the dollars. And so those are the things that I'm going to ask our delegation to do. With that, I'll be glad to take questions.
Great. First question, Councilmember Sally, and then Mayor Davis, and then Mayor Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to welcome you, County Executive Baker. It's glad to actually have a county executive here in College Park.
I'm glad to be here in College Park. I like College Park.
It's a welcome change. The question I want to ask is, I'm sure the same that every other person in College Park wants to ask, which is about rebuilding Route 1 and trying to make that a county priority. And I was really happy with what you just said, and you want something that's going to be good hits for Prince George's County. The fact is, the University of Maryland is the largest employer in this county, the third largest employer in the state. And for many people, especially coming right off 95, the first impression of Prince George's County, I'm talking about regionally, statewide, nationally, and even globally, is coming down Route 1 to go to the University of Maryland. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, it's an embarrassment. And it's something that we needed to have as a bigger priority for a long time. Just recently, our city's population, new census, crossed the 30,000 person threshold. We're a growing area, increasingly urbanizing area. This is the gateway to Prince George's County for many people across the world. And we have our Main Street, which is quite frankly an embarrassment. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that for once and for all that the county will make this a priority for SHA funding.
Well, clearly you have a great advocate in your council member. He has done. I was going to say, and very convincingly too. Clearly, tongue-in-cheek aside, your Councilman Eric has advocated very, very strongly for Route 1 to be a priority. I think it should be, and it is a priority for the county. Clearly, it's not at the top of the list where the council member would want it to be, but it doesn't mean that I don't take his reasoning seriously. I think he's absolutely right. There are some others that we feel are ready right now that we're supporting, but clearly Route 1 is a big part of the growth in Prince George's County, and working with Eric and the others, we're going to do all we can to see that we put the money in there, and we'll go back and forth on on how we get that done. But I understand it, I hear you, and I will look at it.
Okay. Mayor Davis.
I'm going to broach the subject that everyone probably hopes or wishes we didn't have to broach, but I'm going to broach it anyway.
Well, then don't do that.
And that's the ethics situation in the county. I think everyone probably saw, to our chagrin, the Washington Post editorial, "Draining the Swamp in Prince George's."
Oh, Jesus.
We know that you are trying very hard to do that, to drain the swamp. I mean, you have set up the Accountability, Compliance, and Integrity Advisory Board. You have tried to put forth some state legislation. And then we hear from the news that some, maybe more than some, of the county council are kind of fighting you on some of this legislation. So we have discussed this at our city council, and I do want to just, on behalf of the council, like to pass to you a letter of support for what you are doing with the reforms and so on. But how are things going? Are they, is the swamp
It's just, yeah, well, it's. First of all, thank you. No, I mean it is. As I've said on many occasions, it is no secret that these are challenging times in the county. But these are also great opportunities in the county. And I continue to say that we're in the best position of anybody in the region for not only development and growth, but to attract and retain a diverse community, which is the first and foremost thing that I want. But in order to get there, clearly we're going to have to, we recognize that certain things did happen. And there are ongoing investigations, and I think we need to send a signal that we're serious about it. And so we've done that. But I have to say this, I've been pleased with the discussions that I've had with the council. I think the points that they raise are very valid. It's the same points I raise, and that is, we're a new government coming into being. We ran on, I think most of us ran on reform, that we understood that we wanted to do things differently, and I think we're trying to get there. It is unfortunate that the very bright individuals that serve us, and I have to tell you that you have some really, really good representatives and hardworking on the council, and they want to make sure the right thing is done, but they want to make sure that we actually do it in a way that is helpful and not harmful. And so like anything else, I appreciate people working hard on that. They've done the same thing in terms of questioning about the task force that we put together in terms of what we do, the ethics task force, as we call it, or accountability task force. So that's a long-winded way of saying, there's going to be a lot of give and take on how we get it done. The main thing is that each and every one of us understand that we have to present Prince George's County not only in the best light, but that we demonstrate in a very real way that we're different from what people think and what people have seen. And on that, I commend them for the hard work and efforts that they're putting in there. And we're doing the same thing, and we'll continue to do it. And at the end of the day, what we hope happens is when the legislature ends, that we've moved forward in showing to the public, one, that we understand that people have to know that we're serious about it being a fair playing field and transparency. But two, don't lose track of the critical issues facing us in the county, and that is improving our education system and trying to expand our base in commercial here. So I think they're working with me on that, and we're going to continue. And so we'll fight hard for this, and thank you for your support.
Mayor Hankin.
Thank you. My comment is on crime at metro stations. This evening I happened to be watching a little bit news, and the news reporter said that New Carrollton is #1. Oh, great. In crime at the metro station.
That wasn't Fox 5, was it?
3, so I mean, I envy you. What can be done, or is there anything that the county can do to help Metro,
Before I do that, I know Eric wanted to weigh in on the last subject.
Yeah, and I just want to say, the council, we are working very closely with Mr. Baker on everything, I think.
Yes.
But in terms of...
Especially Mary.
And Mary especially. She's working, double time. But we are in agreement on a whole lot of the government.
It's not what the papers say.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah.
Headlines tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I just want you to know that we are, we are working very closely together. There's a lot that we agree on. yeah, are we gonna agree on 100%? I mean,
No.
you know, it's, as you know, in your town council meetings, you're gonna have to look at every aspect, and look at unintended consequences and all those things, and we're doing that. But I think, we know, we have to pass reforms at the county level, you know, at the state level, because we do want to make sure that Prince George's County is presenting itself as, you know, the most ethical, good governance place in Maryland. And so we are working toward that end, and I believe we will get there. So, you know, it's a process.